server racks. But yeah.
Basically, we're going back to the size of the old Univac system.
Yeah, but it's miniaturizing very quickly, right? What will happen is this curve of miniaturization will happen much faster. And the way the systems will be used, and you'll see this in a demo in a few minutes, is it'll be that iPhone you have in your hand or an iPad, right? There'll be a system in the cloud that's pretty big, right? But the way you access it and ask questions will be using a mobile device like your smartphone or your iPad. Right, and I'll show you an example of that in a minute. The other thing that's important about this picture is, for those of you who watched the game, you remember it came up with 3 possible answers and something called a confidence factor. Right? So the answer to this question was albinism, or albino. I don't know how to pronounce it. Right. It was 98% confident that was the right answer, but it had 2 other possibles, albino or paraphia, 10 and 7%. This line here was the betting threshold. Right. So we had for the game's purposes, we had to implement something to know what confidence level you needed to have in order to bet. And the confidence level moved based on where you stood with the competitors in the game, right? So it didn't just learn as it learned all the information, it had to learn from everything that was going on in the game around it in real time. So as you went down a column, as it became clearer, the trick that was in the questions or the answers, it could learn from the previous answers that it had either gotten wrong or a competitor had gotten right, so it knew how to answer the next question, right? So it's learning as it goes through the system. So that's really this idea of confidence. This becomes important because people watching the show started to think of use cases we hadn't thought of yet. So it's just people, doctors, lawyers, people who deal with lots and lots of information started looking at the game show and said, if you applied this to my profession, it could really change things. Right, so we started getting a lot of phone calls very quickly after the game show from big organizations that were starting to look at problems they had that they didn't know how to solve, that they thought this could be adapted to. Right, and that's really what's been going on. So what Watson has inside of it, besides big computers with lots of energy, I mean the interesting stat is John Kelly, who was one of my colleagues that was in the video up front, is the human brain uses 28 watts. It was like 85,000 watts for Watson. That's the difference, right? So we overpowered the electricity in the game, but so